Our final speaker today, we're circling back for a very short talk by Tyler Norris, who started us off today. Tyler's bringing us back to ourselves. This work can be a bit of a roller coaster. It can be highs of excitement of new ideas and then lows of, oh my gosh, we have so much to do so fast. Can we do it? And so we're going to have a lot of fun at Galena tonight, connecting to each other, moving together and connecting. But I wanted Tyler to bring us home to ourselves as we wrap up the day. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Tyler Norris.
That's a lot today, yeah? Energy, our food, our forests, now ourselves. How are we? How are we doing? I lead a mental health philanthropy that was endowed by the Providence Health System, and our role has been to reverse deaths of despair and improve human flourishing. And my daughter's pretty astute. She's 29. She reminded me the other day that in the previous century, Dad, lifespan in the United States increased by 24 years. And in the last 7 years, we've been declining. And her question of me is a good one, and it's kind of for all of us on our watch, is, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? That the collective impact of what our production is to reduce lifespan. So I want to ask a question about what leadership looks like, whether we're focused on energy or food or forests or the sea or any of these pieces. What does it look like to secure legacies? When I began yesterday, I said that we can't change the legacy we inherited, but we can surely change that which we pass to the future. So as with the kids, I want to ask the question, what shall it be? What kind of a legacy are we leaving? And how do we create those vital conditions that allow us to flourish in the first place? What does it mean to be a steward of the future, whose lives are dedicated to the next generation? So when Wellbeing Trust got started a few years ago, we partnered with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Trust for America's Health to sort of look at what are the trends around our mental health and well-being and how are we dying, particularly deaths from suicide, opioids and other drugs and alcohol. And as you can see from this slide, basically over the last decades, every decade, rates of those ways of dying have doubled. We've increasingly. And in the last couple of years, accelerated by COVID, we have reached what we feared most about 7 years ahead of the target. If there was any one gift of COVID, it's that we have all recognized how vulnerable we are to our own mental health and well-being. How many of you, I can't see a thing out there, how many of you have struggled with your own mental health and well-being, or somebody very close to you has struggled mightily in this period, right? Anybody feeling somehow insulated from all of that? No, I don't think so. Now, Idaho, where I grew up as a kid, and I'm glad to be able to spend more time here, is a place where we actually have a very difficult time talking about mental health. We have a very difficult time talking about it because of stigma, kind of who we think we are. We don't talk about guns. Some of these things are very difficult. Mental Health America, who we work very closely with as a national partner, ranks the states. Idaho, I could share you a little bit more. I'm just going to focus on our youth. If you look at the prevalence of youth mental illness and lack of access to care, we're 50th out of 51. Behind us, only Nevada, our neighbor, with a similar kind of culture. So we have a very interesting opportunity, and we talk a lot among Idaho leaders here about how can we see the future of our state if this is how we're faring. What shall we be? So it's as we've been talking today, well, where should we focus? Kind of first say, well, where's the cause? Well, there's a whole number of individual level factors. Where people are lonely, we lack some sense of purpose, many young people, a sense of belonging or actually being welcome, right? We see systemic elements such as a fragmented access to care. How many of you actually have struggled, or somebody you know have struggled to find meaningful, good mental health support when you need it, right? Many of us have, even if you have health coverage. Social and community conditions, food insecurity, housing insecurity, racism, people advocating or challenging queer community or indigenous community, excluding folks, our drivers. All of these are resulting in the so-called deaths of despair. So when you think about if there's a systemic, multi-causal problem, where do you go to fix that? Now, much of what we do, and you'll even hear me talk about it, is focused on policies and practices and resource flows. How do we change that? And also the resources and connections. But really, it's about how are we thinking and how are we conversing. Now, our work at Wellbeing Trust is focused on three things. Get the care right, integrated whole person care, no wrong door. What quality now means for our clinicians is physical health and mental health and social needs. In other words, we'll talk with you concurrently about your diabetes and your depression and your food insecurity. Anything less than that, that's not quality anymore. That's what quality care needs to look like. Secondly is policy to make sure that that care gets paid for. And third, how are we creating communities that are gardens to grow people in the first place? What that means is that this old language of the social determinants of health is now these vital conditions for well-being. What do we need to thrive? What do we need to flourish? Just take a scan at this for a moment. And at the center is civic muscle, which is where we ended yesterday, which is how do we build the community and political will to do what we know we need to do. Much of our focus has been to build a social movement. We reverse engineered the last 10 social movements from abolition to suffrage to marriage equality and say, what do they need? And we've been very deliberately, longer conversation asked me over dinner, how we've been investing in missing movement infrastructure to support a field that is capable of having enough dose to save lives. And by dose, I mean reach, intensity, and duration that's capable of actually saving lives. That's what we've done. We've helped start most all of those organizations in those 5 years to do what they need to do, policy, data, et cetera. And what that means at the local level is we have the same kind of opportunity. How do we make sure we have the policy levers and communication levers and data levers, ways of engaging people in meaningful ways of making change? That's what we're committed to. But one of the greatest challenges we're facing right now is around our workforce. Now, you'll often hear calls, oh, we need more psychiatrists and psychologists. We probably do, but we'll never get there. That will never be a solution to address what's going on. We could also train more marriage and family therapists and social workers and others, and we're working very hard to build those pathways to careers, including navigators, community health workers, peer support specialists, qualified mental health advocates, and the array of professionals who can support and meet people where they are. But our opportunity, I think, and the seed that I'd like to plant is how do we learn to be our own first responders? How do we democratize the capacity in our community to meet people who are struggling with higher rates of anxiety and depression and falling back on their addiction and suicidal ideation? And we call this Strengthen Us.
This is mental health. It's how we think, feel, and act. We all have it. It's fundamental to our overall health. And everyone will need help with mental health at some point. It's part of being human. But help is in short supply. Our care system is designed for sickness and crises. And in day-to-day life, people often don't know what they can do to get help, give help, or even where to start. But better is possible. we can have the skills to help care for ourselves and others before things reach crises. To be the first point of support, know what to do, where to start. Strengthen Us is a community-led initiative to help everyone learn basic ways to support common mental health needs. Our communities show up for each other every day. Listen, partner, learn, care. Let's strengthen our ability to say, I can help in the moment with people we know best. We're already seeing change happen. People are recognizing it's okay not to be okay. We can take the next step. It's time we have the words to talk about it, the skills to act. You never know how these simple actions could make a big difference. We believe everyone has the power to help. Together, we can be the movement of communities caring for our mental health.
So I'm a local kid who grew up here and struggled as a kid. And when I got in trouble, community wrapped around me. In fact, community saved my life. And I've dedicated my life and my career to helping transform and find ways and pathways for people who struggle. What we're doing here is helping everyone learn, how do I recognize someone who's struggling? How do I discern how I might engage with them in a meaningful way and open a conversation and make it safe for someone to describe how they're feeling? Maybe it's you that needs to describe to someone else how you're doing. And then how to close that conversation with a bit of a referral. So if you're interested about the systemic change in mental health and what we're doing broadly in policy change in communities, 988 rollout, I'm happy to talk with you about all of that. But as leaders here trying to create a sustainable and just world, our interiority and that of our friends and neighbors is at the heart. And who we are with one another and how we can turn to one another with a sense of safety and confidence that we're going to be held in respect and met with the support we need means everything. Whether we're just a little anxious or sadly, when too many people are saying it's not worth it anymore. So this Spark talk at the end is actually a message of possibility because we are hardwired to connect. And what's going on here is a spiritual crisis, and the only antidote is human connection. So here's the connection, and let's enjoy our evening at Galena together. Thank you for letting me close this afternoon.